Hello, everyone. Kelvin Battles here again from Jackson District Library. Today we have Marc Stanley from Southeastern Dispute Resolution, and he is going to talk about eviction and diversion. Thank you for joining us, Marc. We really appreciate it. We hope that this will be a useful tool for the community to help answer simple questions. They can get simple answers on simple questions.
Absolutely. We're going to be talking about some pretty important information that we want to get out and make sure everybody understands what their rights, responsibilities, and what, our role within the community is for the eviction diversion program.
Can you just talk generally about the eviction diversion program, what it is, what agencies take part, and what it is that you're trying to get accomplished?
Sure. I'll give a little bit of the history regarding our process. So in 2013, 2014, I worked with legal services leadership to talk, to look at the community and see where our customers overlapped and what the needs of the community were. So we kind of felt that the easiest way for us to make an immediate impact in the community and have access and partnership with the courts would be through creating an eviction diversion process for Jackson County. What we created was a system where people could request to mediate with their landlord if they received an eviction notice. And at that point, they would get access to a consultation with legal services and the housing authority, which would be Community Action Agency or Department of Health and Human Services, and talk about rental assistance that they might be eligible for. And prior to that, they had to do all of this work on their own. So if they didn't know that they're eligible for services, they might just ignore the court paperwork and then be kicked out of their home. And in Michigan, typically you don't have an absolute right to legal counsel when you're being evicted. So we wanted to create some equity for the community in that aspect because a lot of the landlords are represented by an attorney. So, we talked about getting the tenants the ability to have a consultation before they could really negotiate with their landlord and talk about whether or not they can keep paying the rent or pay the back rent so they can stay in the home or if they need to move. So they knew what their options were. So we started doing that with Judge Mazur in 2014. And when everything went crazy and the courts closed, you had this massive backlog where the landlords are still filing for eviction and nobody knew what to do because the courts are closed. So they're not filing cases. Everything's in chaos. And the Supreme Court, they just redid everything and said, you're going to do every case gets a pretrial. Every case gets access to legal services. You can mediate if you wish. That was just the way things are going to go. Instead of Jackson County taking the answers from the tenants and maybe having 3,000 eviction cases funneled down to 400 that would mediate or actually have hearings. Now they had to file a pretrial case for every case that's coming through the door. And so that's a massive amount of work. Luckily, we had this process already in place and we're able to create a navigational system over Zoom. We have 8 dedicated eviction diversion mediators. Every landlord tenant case that comes to Jackson County comes to my office. We have the pretrial set. So the court gives them our Zoom information. The landlords, tenants, their attorneys, representatives call into our Zoom, and then they're able to talk to legal services, Community Action Agency, or Department of Health and Human Services and talk about the eviction diversion rental assistance. So last year, the state gave $60 million and funneled that around to the housing authorities. We had a large amount of money, but we needed a functioning tool to get the tenants, get the families aware of this money. With all the cases coming to us, it gives the tenants an opportunity to talk about rental assistance directly, and it educates the landlords about the rental assistance that's available. So we've done that since like early August. Each county has to have a eviction diversion task force, kind of like a planning team. We talk about the process monthly and we talk about, where the money's at, and there's specific income requirements. 30% or under of AMI, average median income. The tenants could get up to $3,500 last year of back rent based on COVID. So it would have been March 1st onward. And then they're eligible for up to $1,200 in future rents and supports. And then if the tenant was willing to participate, both sides file an application to Community Action Agency because the money is coming from MSHDA, and they get a payment. And then the tenant was caught up, essentially. And if there is a balance still owed, then the tenant and landlord could work out a payment arrangement. So everybody would have a basic understanding of how much money was owed, what the level of eligibility for the tenant was for the money that was available, and they'd have a timeline. It usually took about 7 to 10 days. So it's pretty quick turnaround. July to December, we had 423 cases from Jackson District Court come through our office, and we settled about 85 to 90% of those cases. If they got to us and if people showed up, they got paid and they had some kind of settlement arrangement. And that was last year. So those funds ended December 31st. And the new program through MSHDA, that's federal money, is called the SIRA program. The requirements are a little bit different. Essentially, the money is still going to be income related. The landlords do have to voluntarily participate with the MSHDA funding process to get paid. The biggest issue is trying to educate the tenants and the landlords at the same time to make sure they understand what the money means. And that, essentially it's no strings attached. You get paid and there's not an obligation that you have to maintain that tenant in your house. You're getting your payment from whatever's backlogged, but if the tenant can't make their payments or maintain payments, you can still file again to evict. It's about as equitable a system as you can make with none of this being anybody's fault.